My name is Alan Grodzinsky. Everybody calls me Al, and I work at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I'm a professor of biological, electrical, and mechanical engineering there. Training degrees at MIT. I was an undergraduate and a graduate student, all in electrical engineering. There was no bioengineering back 100 years. Graduating from there, in those days, engineers did not do postdocs. So I was lucky enough that a faculty opening occurred in the electrical engineering department at MIT. So I just stayed there. Inertia is a very important force in my life. You don't want to move around if you don't have to. I was supposed to be teaching. I decided to take a year sabbatical and went across the river from Cambridge to Boston. And I spent the year at Boston Children's Hospital in the orthopedics department. And none of the work I had ever done before that had anything to do with orthopedics, but I learned about various human diseases, especially osteoarthritis, which was a focus at the time in the orthopedics department. And learned about a tissue called cartilage, which covers the articulating bones of all the joints in our body, and how when cartilage begins to degrade for one reason or another, it can ultimately lead to osteoarthritis. And that has become kind of a lifelong passion to try to figure out why that happens in some people and not others. It's a disease that affects upwards of 600 million people around the world, so it's a huge problem. And there are currently no drugs for osteoarthritis that are approved by the FDA. There are only short-term painkillers, but ultimately the only cure for a very painful osteoarthritic joint is total joint replacement. So that's kind of been a preoccupation for a long time now. Yeah, I'd say one of the most exciting projects we've ever worked on is the project we're collaborating with you at NDRI right now. It started about three and a half years ago when we first began to contact you. And we were funded by NIH and NASA to look into one of a variety of projects. Of course, our work focused on osteoarthritis, but NASA and NIH were particularly interested in diseases and pathologies that affect astronauts up in space, but at the same time, research that would benefit people on Earth. So the work, of course, is applicable to people everywhere, whether they're on Earth or in space. Yeah. And it turned out that, as we had known for a while, the research that we got involved with could most successfully be approached by working with real human tissue. And it turns out that the project, of course, astronauts, as I'm sure you could imagine, are the most highly physically trained specimens on the planet. They're extraordinarily in good shape, even though quite a few of them have had joint problems in one way or another, but they're all very highly trained physically. Nevertheless, it turns out that injuries during the mission period up in the space station occur more often than injuries, orthopedic injuries, to us on Earth. And so the NASA and the astronauts are very interested in understanding these problems. So we've begun to work on this, and the rationale for human tissue is that while there are some animal models, they're just not good replicates of the real human disease. Incredibly thankful to the organ and tissue donors, because without them, we would not be able to do this research. It's very simple. It's really the organ donors and their families that are enabling us and other investigators to look into diseases of this kind. So all we can do is forward our tremendous thanks.